Borguyor. Part 3. Emir kept replaying the moment Layla walked out of Sweet Delights, the cafe door chiming in finality. He had urged himself to run after her, to abandon all bitterness and cling to the fragile promise of love. However, he remained rooted behind the counter, immobilized by anger, shame, and the memories of a mother scorned. Now that Layla was gone, the emptiness left behind was more oppressive than he had imagined. Another morning began before sunrise as usual, kneading dough, rolling out pastries, greeting suppliers at the cafe's back entrance. Customers filed in for breakfast, and Melis deftly managed the counter whenever Emir retreated into silence. She was the only person who seemed to understand that his distant stare was a shield, not an invitation to pry. Sweet Delights flourished with increased foot traffic from local tour groups, yet every success felt hollow. The warm murmur of conversation and the clink of cups against saucers couldn't dispel the hurt in Emir's chest. Late one afternoon, as the sun descended behind the row of old buildings, Emir was wiping down tables when Ahmet walked in. Dressed in an understated suit, Emir's father seemed visibly drained, like a man forcing himself to stand tall despite a heavy burden. "I'd like to speak with you," Ahmet said quietly. His voice was raspy. Whether from guilt or simple fatigue, Emir could not tell. Emir laid the cloth down and looked at him, eyes void of their usual anger. "Go ahead." Ahmet's gaze darted around the cafe, recalling how it once belonged to the wife he'd betrayed. "I've spoken with an investor friend," he began. "I told him about your cafe, about the dream your mother had for it. He's interested in helping you expand, maybe even open a second branch." Emir stiffened. "And why would you do that?" A ghost of a smile pulled at Ahmet's lips. "Because despite everything, I want to see you succeed. I can't undo the past, but can support your future." Silence hung between them. Emir recalled the nights his mother cried, the years he spent feeling like a tethered balloon, floating aimlessly, held back by unresolved questions. "You think money will heal everything?" Emir asked bitterly. Ahmet shook his head. "No, this isn't about money. It's about trying to do something good, however small. Even if you never forgive me, at least let me help your business grow. It's what your mother would have wanted." Emir's throat tightened at the mention of his mother. For all his father's flaws, something in Ahmet's voice sounded undeniably sincere. I'll think about it." That was all Emir could say. He watched as Ahmet exhaled, relief and sorrow consorting in his lined face. "Thank you," the older man murmured, turning to leave. When the door closed behind Ahmet, Melis emerged from the back room. She had overheard enough to gauge the conversation's gravity. Emir sank onto a nearby stool, rubbing his temples. "Are you okay?" she asked gently. He managed a tired chuckle. "Hard to say. I'm too numb to be angry." Melis hesitated, then lightly touched his shoulder. "Emir, sometimes people do change. Maybe he really does want to help. Only you can decide if you'll let him." Emir nodded slowly, grateful for her indefatigable presence. "Thank you," he said, voice low. He was no closer to forgiving his father, but the idea of building something bigger, fulfilling his mother's dream, was tempting in a way he'd never admit aloud. Months after months, life in Istanbul carried on, each day colored by the city's pulse, the clang of tram bells, the aroma of roasted chestnuts along the avenues. Inside Sweet Delights, new faces and returning regulars kept the cafe lively. Emir found a sliver of ease in routine, discovering that work could be its own kind of therapy. One morning, as the rising sun cast soft orange bands across the windows, Melis approached Emir with a sheaf of papers. Her hair was pinned back, and she wore the same caring expression she always did. "What's all this?" Emir asked, noting the official seals at the top of each page. "Your father brought these by earlier," Melis explained, eyeing Emir carefully. "Financial projections, property options, an investor's contact details. He said to give them to you." Emir stared at the documents. A second location for sweet delights. A chance to expand beyond what he ever believed possible. For a moment, his heart hustled at the thought of truly honoring his mother's legacy, seeing her recipes delight customers all across Istanbul. Yet he hesitated. Accepting these deals meant acknowledging his father's help, a father who had left, a father who had betrayed them, a father who, ironically, shared the same woman Emir had foolishly fallen for. He caught Mela studying him. "What do you think?" he asked. She paused, choosing her words carefully. "I think your mother dreamed of seeing your pastries reach more people. If this is a step toward that dream, then maybe it's worth considering, even if it comes from him." Emir's chest felt tight. He considered the memory of Layla, the heartbreak he still nursed, and the father he resented. Was it possible that accepting help was not capitulation, but an act of growth? Without fully committing, he nodded. "I'll read them," he said softly. "Nothing more for now." Melis's lips curled into a small smile. That's a start. That afternoon, while wiping down tables, Emir heard the door ding. He looked up, expecting to see another customer, but instead froze. Layla stood in the doorway, an overnight bag slung over her shoulder. Her once sophisticated attire looked simpler, less polished, as though she had traveled a long distance. A stillness fell over the café. The few patrons present glanced up curiously before returning to their tea and pastries. Melis, working behind the counter, nearly dropped a ceramic plate in shock. Emir's heart hammered in his chest, a tumult of anger, longing, and confusion swirling simultaneously. Layla approached slowly. "I'm sorry," she began, her voice trembling. "I know I said I'd leave for good, and I did. But there was something I had to do first. Tell you the truth, face to face, about why I came here in the first place." He folded his arms over his apron, defenses up. "You told me enough, didn't you? That you and my father—" "That's only part of it." She lowered her gaze. "He came to me, offering money if I stayed away from you. I refused. It wasn't about money. I truly cared for you, Emir. I still do. But I thought leaving would end all your pain." Emir struggled to keep his composure. "Why come back now?" She inhaled shakily. "Because running solved nothing. I needed to see if there's any possibility, any forgiveness or understanding, before I vanish for good. I had to try." He stared at her, stunned by her candor. 1,000 memories surged, their late-night chats, the sweet taste of her first bite of baklava, the pain of discovering she was tied to Ahmet. Melis hovered near the espresso machine, eyes brimming with anxiety. She wanted to protect Emir from more heartbreak, but she also saw how torn he was. Finally, Emir released a weary breath. "I don't know if there's a future for us. Everything about your arrival was a lie." Her eyes shone with tears. "I understand. I'm not asking for miracles. Just the chance to say, I love you, and I'm sorry." For a long moment, he couldn't speak. Then he glanced at the ring of curious customers, at Melis's worried face, at the place he'd spent years pouring his heart into. "Let's go outside," he said quietly. They stepped onto the cobblestone street, the autumn breeze ruffling Layla's hair. She recounted the messy details of how Ahmet had promised to leave his marriage for her, then retreated when it got complicated. How she'd followed him once more to Istanbul, only to meet Emir and realize how badly fate had twisted their lives. She admitted her lingering guilt over how her presence might reopen old wounds for Emir's family. He listened, wounded but strangely calmer than he had been before. In the golden afternoon light, she looked human, fallible, less the glamorous figure who had entranced him. At last, he sighed. "Layla, I can't just forget what happened. I can't pretend I'm not angry, but I also can't deny what I felt. Maybe, with time, that feeling will fade. Or maybe it won't. Tears traced her cheeks. I understand. I won't push you. I only wanted to be honest. She handed him a small envelope. My new address. I'm staying in a modest place on the outskirts of Ankara. If someday you want to talk, find me. Before he could respond, she gently touched his hand, then turned and walked away. Emir watched her vanish into the crowd. Days later, Emir was reading over the investor documents in earnest. The prospect of another cafe location sparked a warm ember of excitement. Perhaps the path to healing lay not in shutting everyone out, but in allowing new possibilities to bloom, even if those possibilities involved tentatively working with his father. Melis entered, wiping her hands on her apron. How's the reading going? She asked softly. Emir looked up and mustered a faint smile. You know, it might actually be good for the cafe. Melis's face brightened with relief. I'm glad, she said, moving closer. And how are you holding up? Really? He let out a slow breath. I'm better. She's gone for now. My father is trying to help. I don't trust him completely, but maybe I can take a step forward. She returned his smile, a gentle warmth lighting her eyes. In her presence, he felt the stirring of an uncomplicated, more solid affection built on patience and mutual respect. Leaning against the counter, he reached out, letting his fingertips brush hers. Melis, he began, voice softer than usual. Thank you for staying, for caring enough to see me through all this. Her cheeks colored. I'd never leave you alone like that. He nodded, letting the moment linger. Outside, the city fussed and thrived. Inside, the tempting scents of fresh pastries and sweet syrup hinted at new beginnings. There would be no easy path to erasing the past, no magic fix for heartbreak. But with each new sunrise, Emir found that forgiveness, trust, and love could begin as tentative steps, a willingness to share burdens and welcome second chances. And as Emir locked eyes with Melis in the soft glare of the cafe's lamps, he allowed himself to hope that sweet delights might hold more than memories of sorrow. Perhaps it would become a place of healing and possibility, one pastry at a time. The end.